Hey, Amin here, and in this class I'm gonna go over how I use the terminal with IdeaVim. First step is easy. In your IdeaVim RC, set the shortcut to launch the terminal. In my case, I'm mapping it to Control-T to activate it. Once done, save and reload your IdeaVim RC config. So now from the editor, hit Control-T to show the terminal, then hit Escape to go back to the editor. Another remap I like to use is the open in terminal mapping. Let's say that you are editing a file and you want to run a command in the file parent folder. So instead of using cd, we can use the open in terminal in order to open the terminal exactly in that folder. This is very helpful in deeply nested projects. So to create the mapping, add the following to your IdeaVim RC. In my case, I mapped it to leader T. And then once done, save and reload your IdeaVim RC. So let's give it a try. So let's say I open the test file. So I know that this test file is inside that test folder. So if I hit leader T, it will open a new terminal in that test folder directly. This is not related to Vim, but I think it's worth sharing. There are two ways I like to use the terminal, either docked, like what we saw earlier, or in a floating or a window mode like this. I use the docked mode if I want to keep the terminal output as a reference while coding, for example, to see the output of a command like the output of a curl, for example. And I use the floating mode if I want just to do a quick command and check the output later or do some file management like deleting a file or something. To replicate this setup, you will need to use the IDE setting in order to create the shortcuts. So from the key map setting, find the tool window view modes like this. So key map, others, and then tool windows view modes. And you will need to map docked, pinned, float, and window. In my case, I use Control D for docked, Control F for float, and Control W for window. After that, find the active window shortcuts from main menu, window, and then active window, and then map hide active window. In my case, I use Control H for hide. Finally, go to Tools, Terminal, and then make sure to uncheck Override IDE shortcuts. So now let's take a look how my workflow look like with the terminal and IdeaVim. So first of all, I usually work in distraction-free mode. So something like this, I usually will have another file, let's say the test file I'm working on. And let's say that I want to do the parse response function here, and I want to see the response of a specific endpoint. So I'll open the terminal, maybe in docked mode, and maybe I'll do a, let's clear this, maybe I'll execute the curl, see that, I press escape to go back and add some more code here. And then let's say once I'm done with this function, I will hide the terminal using Control H. So let's say again that I want to create a file or something. So I'll open the terminal and I'll move it in a floating mode. So for example, I can create a new file here. So for example, I created that class.py. And something is nice with the floating and window mode is that once you have your terminal in floating mode, you can use your window manager to play around with the terminal. For example, I can center the terminal, I can move it using the shortcut I'm using for my window manager. So then if I'm done, I can hide it, and that's it. Thank you for watching, and if you have any question, leave a comment below. I'll do my best to respond as soon as possible.